Welcome back to A Little Bit of Cheese, your bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast. I'm your host, Cody Depius. That is Sam Douglas, a.k.a. Colin Cowherd, a respectful and professional individual. He could also be LeBron James, but the name today, Colin Cowherd. And I am a little curious on this. Sam's a little bit more into the ESPN, Twitter world, what's going on out there with the pop culture. So I'm going to need you to explain that one for a sec, Sam.
There's a fun little rabbit hole if anybody wants to type in Joy Taylor on Google. I'll let you do your own research there. There's been a 42-page lawsuit filed against Fox
Oh.
Sports recently, and
Who filed it?
everybody's getting blamed. I'm not sure who filed it. I'm not sure which side it's on. Currently, there's a lot of allegations going on from both parties. One's pressing allegations, one's fighting it. So I'm sure both parties are, having their fair say. But 42-page blames everybody in the Fox industry, and it drops Colin Cowherd, someone I've listened to my whole life, and all it says about Colin Cowherd is he's the one respectful and professional guy in the building. Colin Cowherd does his job, shows up whether you agree with his takes or not, talks ball for 3 hours straight, and goes home to his wife. That's a respectful and professional guy.
I'll give my Cowherd. So Cowherd, he goes a little bit off rail sometimes. Like sometimes his takes are just stupid, but in all honesty, like you have to be a little stupid sometimes when you're in this, otherwise you're boring. And Cowherd is not boring. Like I remember the one time he was talking bad on Baker Mayfield because he had his hat backwards in a press conference or something like that. But no, it doesn't surprise me. But a whole lot of stuff going on with that Joy Taylor. I mean, it's definitely funny. Like you can go on Twitter and stuff. There's some really good memeing going on in the sports world right now. So we welcome Sam Douglas, aka Colin Cowherd, being as respectful and professional as always. We'd like to thank you for being here. So this is playoff Friday ahead of the wild card round. This is a big weekend for Green Bay and the rest of the NFL. Today, Sam and I are going to give our full predictions. We'll start it off. We'll talk a little bit about this Packer game as we do officially know that Jalen Hurts is going to play for Philly. I know I picked Green Bay earlier this week, and I'm pretty coin flip on this. I think for the sake of the show, I have to pick Green Bay. In my other picks, like if I were to bet on this, I wouldn't bet on Green Bay. But over the course of the week, has the way you felt about this game changed in any sense?
Cody, it has. It sure
Really?
has. The odds are against us. But like I kind of touched on, this Philly team can absolutely implode on themselves. We've been seeing it. We've been seeing the arguments on the sidelines. They're a team that has some locker room issues and a coach who is as volatile as anybody. And hey, the last time the Packers were the lowest seed in the playoffs and the Eagles were our first round matchup, we knocked them out. I think this Packers team is locked and loaded. They've been playing to their competition all year long, and I've got the Packers circled. And we're doing. I'm rolling back what my headline from Monday.
Really?
Pack on top, baby.
So on my ESPN lacrosse picks, I did pick Philly just because I knew that everybody else in the building there was going to pick Philly as well, and I didn't want to lose a game on that. But for here, I will pick Green Bay. And I don't know. I go on Twitter and I look at these takes from both Philly fans and from Green Bay fans, and of course, everyone's going to side with their own team. But the way that you have to look at this, yes, Green Bay has played some rough games down the stretch. They've also played some solid games down the stretch. People forget that last year, into the last quarter of the year, Green Bay got torched by a Bryce Young and a Tommy DeVito, and they still went into Dallas and stomped them and looked like a competitive team. And the same thing when they went into San Francisco. Like they lost some bad games They lost to Vegas last year. That Green Bay team was 9-8. They've won some solid games this year. No, the resume, you don't want to end on a game that's fluky like that in Chicago, but they lost that. But in all honesty, I know there's a lot of sourness in our mouths earlier this week, but that game didn't really matter. And they were really playing like it didn't matter. Like a lot of the guys, and yeah, there might have been some harsh words in the locker room. Good. Because at that point, at the end of that game, you got to be tough on your guys because they have to get ready because now it is do or die. Now, Jalen Hurts, as I stated before, he's going to be back in this game. He hasn't played in a month. And he's a guy who has been prone for interceptions and whatever that may be. Like this Green Bay defense can also force a lot of turnovers. I think that could be something that turns the tide. But I will put the X factor on Jordan Love. He can't be captain check down. He has to be able to make two or three big throws push the ball down the field. They are going to rely on Josh Jacobs. We know that. We've watched this team all year. The play calling is going to run through number 8. But Jordan Love has to be that X factor to push him over the top, and we'll see if he has it in him. Last year at the end of the year, he did. This year at the end of the year, just some weird stuff. He's had some weird injuries, but I still have my full-fledged confidence, and I'm just excited to see how this team comes out of the gate in that wild card round.
The talent is oozing out of Jordan Love. It really is. And the reason that we've been frustrated, and it feels like this has been, overstated on this podcast, but it's been expectations. We paid him $60 million dollars, and he's worth it. We paid him $60 million dollars because of what he did in the playoffs last year against an overmatched offensive team, overmatched defensive team on the road in the playoffs. We know he can do it, and he got paid to do it. So you're right. It's on Jordan Love. And I think it's going to happen, Cody. I'm feeling good about this Packers team.
Oh, yeah. Another part of this is I've always talked about, like, you see some turmoil on that Philly sideline. Like, there's just some weird stuff going on. Like, I remember, like, the first couple weeks of the season, people were calling for Nick Sirianni to be fired. I remember at the end of last year, they went into the playoffs, I think 11-7. They lost to a Tampa Bay team that they had no business losing to in the first round. Like, this team, until the last 15 games of this season, like, there were a lot of questions surrounding Philly. And I think Saquon Barkley is a big answer to big positive answer to a lot of those questions in Philly.
He's really good
at
football.
He is. He really is. But I also think that Edgerrin Cooper can make some really good football plays as well, where he only played 12 snaps, I think, in the first matchup that they had against Philly this year in Brazil. And I don't know for sure if Quay Walker is going to be back. I do think it would be a positive for the Green Bay defense for him to be there. Of course, that is your starter. He's the captain kind of guy that you listen to in that linebacking room with the experience. But I'm going to have some false confidence. And no, this might not translate into my playoff predictions, but I am excited to watch this game. I think Green Bay truly has an opportunity to go out there and win this, and the whole state's going to be watching, and I think we're all going to be pretty hopeful. Well, that can shift us right into our full playoff bracket. Sam and I have both predicted what we think is going to happen. So we'll start it off here in the first round. We have Philly and Green Bay. You said you have switched your pick. You're going to go Green Bay.
Oh, yeah.
I have switched my pick. Like, on this, I'm going to pick the Packers, like, just talking about it, just because I can be the confidence fan. But when it comes to picking it and when I can get points and whatnot and who's going to win this bracket, I'm going to pick Philly because I actually, no, I lied. I did Green Bay this morning. It was a weird morning. No, I picked Green Bay. Let's do it. Yeah, Green Bay's.
Roll with it. Come on, a little gusto. Green Bay's going to win this.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And then Tampa, Washington, the 3 seed versus the 6 seed. We saw this game earlier this year. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of a heads up. I'm picking what previously happened this season in the 2 other wild card matchups for the NFC, which has Tampa Bay beating Washington and the LA Rams beating Minnesota, which might come as a surprise after I was talking so high on Minnesota before last week and that I thought that they could compete for a Super Bowl. They kind of got stomped by LA earlier this year. Do you have any differences in that round?
No, I'm actually 100% the same with you on those. I also have the Rams over the Vikings. I think Baker Mayfield is on an absolute heater right now. Jaden Daniels can break a game open. If Washington's going to win it, it's going to be the Jaden Daniels coming out party. And he absolutely has the potential to throw for 300 and run for 150. I'm thinking like what Colin Kaepernick just shredded the Packers. Yeah. Something like that where Jaden Daniels he has the opportunity to come alive and be a legitimate top 10 quarterback if he goes and wins this. I don't see it happening. Baker's on a heater. And you're going to hear me say this a couple times because I think this playoffs is so exciting. There's a lot of teams that really feel like they have it together. I think last year there was a lot of teams that everybody had a little bit of an issue. I think if it wasn't such a stacked playoffs this year, I'd have Tampa Bay making maybe a run. I'd think about it. Baker's playing hot. It's one of those full teams that's playing complementary football, all sides of the ball. It seems like they have an answer for everything. And they're playing at home, so they're going to take down Washington. I also have the Rams taking out the Vikings. I've been calling the Vikings frauds all year. I
Hmm.
think it does hurt a little bit. Thoughts and prayers to everybody out in LA right now. It's super sad what's going on out there.
Hmm.
They did move the game to Arizona, so that's definitely going to impact home field in the playoffs a little bit. But I think you're going to see a lot of rallying behind this LA situation for the Rams. I think they're playing for a little bit more than what they were playing for last week. And the Vikings, I think they had a great season, and it's going to
Hmm.
be a win for them. They overperformed and they hit their ceiling, and the Rams just have a higher ceiling.
My big key, and I think everything you said about that Tampa Bay Washington game was right. I really, really worry about that Washington defense trying to cover against a Bucky Irving and a Baker Mayfield and
Mhm.
everything that Tampa has going on offense. They're really cooking out there. And I think Baker, like you said, I think they could make a little bit of a run here. And then in that Rams Minnesota game, my big reason for picking this, the question mark going into this year for Minnesota, and the reason why I had them not even winning 7 games was Sam Darnold. It was the question, how is he going to play? And you saw him play in that big pressure moment against Detroit. He missed Justin Jefferson on a couple of easy touchdown passes. He looked a little bit scared. I think when the lights get bright, you got to have that certain type of prototype in you. And I don't think Sam Darnold has it. I think we caught a glimpse of that. And I think LA's they've got some talent. And like you said, they're playing for a whole lot right now. Like this is going to be a storyline that carries through as long as this team does. But yeah, absolutely. Prayers go out in LA. It's terrible stuff going out there. And yeah, I think Minnesota fans would honestly be content at the end of this. Like, even if they lose in this first round, be like, hey, we weren't supposed to do anything. Kind of like as Green Bay fans last year. It was like, okay, yeah, they got their playoff win. Like we would have just been happy if we would have got smoked by Dallas, I think.
Yeah.
Like they weren't supposed to do it. And this year Minnesota wasn't supposed to be really that close to the playoffs. And they were right there and they were down to the last week to go win the division. So that's our first round in the NFC. Now for the AFC, I don't have a whole lot of discrepancy here, so no big picks for me. I have Buffalo beating Denver. I don't think there's any question in that. Same with you?
Yeah. I think we'll have the same first round here. It's Bills, Ravens, Chargers.
Yeah, yeah. Bills, Ravens,
Yeah.
Chargers, Houston. That's the one kind of question, but they've just looked rough. They're so banged up on offense. CJ Stroud hasn't looked good. They're playing in the worst division in football, and that's how they're a division champion. So yeah, same first round all the way through here actually. So then we'll go to the second round. Detroit and Green Bay. I'm picking Detroit. Like that's where I have the magic ends. I don't know, even when Detroit, I was like, oh, they're really banged up on defense. Like they had some guys go like Arik Robertson he stepped in there and was able to cover Justin Jefferson. There's a whole mentality that is in that Detroit locker room. And as much as I really don't like the way that some of those guys play, they play really good football. So I have Detroit beating Green Bay.
I also have Detroit beating Green Bay. You talk about a team of destiny. I mean, Dan Campbell was biting kneecaps 4 years ago. Their record has gotten better 4 straight years. I think they went from losing 7 straight to winning 7 straight a couple years ago. This Lions team has been cooking for a while. There's a mentality there, and like you said, they've been overcoming things from the start. I'm a fan of what they're doing over there. I don't have this ingrown hatred of them like I have for Minnesota or Chicago because you kind of pity liked the Lions for a while when Stafford and
Right.
Megatron were putting up numbers. It was like, oh, that's cute over there. But now
Yeah.
they're winning games and they're mentally tough and I'm gonna take them against almost anybody.
I would absolutely love to see Green Bay just shut them up, though. I think that would be like the highlight of this. Like that would be really it. If Green Bay could go in and beat Detroit, I
Yeah.
think that'd be probably the highlight because we'll see what happens. Maybe they go on and win the whole thing, but like the chances that even if you beat Detroit, it's pretty slim. The playoffs get tough. In the other divisional game, I do have Tampa Bay beating the Rams. I do think that the storybook season ends for LA. You got a smile on you there. Like I don't. I said you said it before me. Tampa Bay might go on a run here. Like they're playing complementary football. I think they can go and take down this Rams team.
I have Tampa Bay. Cody, we're hanging out too much, man. We got everything the same. I also have Tampa Bay winning this game. It's a team, they're doing it right. They're clicking on all cylinders. Bucky showed up when Rashad White wasn't doing great. They got Evans, Baker's throwing great, and I'll tell you what, it's a favorable matchup. I don't think I would have Tampa beating, Philly. I don't know if I would have them beating Green Bay, but they are going to be playing at home against the Rams in this situation, and
Hmm.
I just think that's a good matchup for them.
I think Tampa's offense can do really well against the LA defense as well. I will say, like,
Hmm.
they're just hot. Like, you gotta let them be hot. On the AFC side, this things might get interesting here. I don't know, but I have Kansas City beating the Chargers. I don't know how much if you question that. I know you're probably higher on the Chiefs than I am. So you have Kansas City as well.
What a win this would be for Harbaugh. That would be
Yeah.
wild. Herbert needs a playoff win. We'll rewind a little bit to this Chargers Texans game. Justin Herbert needs to win this game. If he doesn't, there's going to start being talk about, is he almost more of that Matt Stafford archetype? Because this kid is unfreaking believable. Anybody who watches him play is a fan of Justin Herbert. The guy has to get the playoff monkey off his back. He's in his fifth year playing now. He's got to win. But
Well, I
his
think those
story is
conversations have already started, Sam.
yeah. But now he has a real team behind him. Like there's no more excuses on a
Hmm.
bad team. When you are that elite quarterback, you're supposed to bring your team there. And they've kind of started. But if he still can't win, if they lose to the Texans, the pressure is on. Absolutely. Yeah, he's gonna be making his money. But no, I do have the Chiefs and in the Chargers season pretty
Yeah.
handily.
Yeah. It could be close, but something will happen in Kansas City. Will find a way to win. In the other game, Buffalo and Baltimore, I got this as a barn burner, but I gave you a little hint before. I'm going to pick what happened earlier this season, and Baltimore took it to Buffalo. I think it was 31-10 was the final. That was the fourth week in September. Like Baltimore just they look like the better team. And I think top to bottom, Baltimore might be their top 3 in talent, I would say. Absolutely. I have Baltimore taking down Josh Allen and the Bills.
They got the most Pro Bowlers, I think, out of anybody. They got I think it's 7 starters for the
Wow.
Ravens, which is a huge number. Most out of anybody in the league. Ravens are absolutely stacked, and the MVP conversation is hot. This is our first difference, Cody. Josh Allen is the most game-changing player I've ever seen. Mahomes is great, Rodgers is great. Josh Allen can literally do everything. He's a bigger, faster, stronger Aaron Rodgers who can change the game at the drop of a dime. Don't get me wrong,
Okay.
Lamar can as
Okay.
well,
So
but
you're
Josh
telling me
Allen is
if you could pick prime Aaron Rodgers or prime Josh Allen, you're picking Josh Allen?
no. Prime Aaron
Okay.
Rodgers is different. So the accuracy of Aaron Rodgers being able to lead that drive,
Yeah.
Josh Allen can do more though. He's a
Okay.
single more of a game-changing individual through the course of it. Give me a 2-minute drive. I want Aaron Rodgers. I think he's just going to put the ball in the right spot. But as far as a single game-changing player, this Bills team was stripped of everybody
Yeah.
coming in and they're the 2 seed. It is unbelievable. He's not just putting up numbers; he's winning games. And I've called him the best TV in football this year a couple times. I'm a Josh Allen fan. I think he's one of the top 8 quarterbacks ever to play the game, and I think he's going to retire in that range.
Woo. I gotta see the playoff success. I gotta see you go to a Super Bowl. And I
He
mean,
does
yes,
have does have to do that.
his career is still young, but there's a monkey on his back too, and it's the fact that he can't get over Kansas City. And I don't have him getting over Baltimore here. I think something's written in the stars for this Ravens team. Now we're gonna have some differences here. So I have a Kansas City, Baltimore AFC Championship. You have Kansas City and the Bills. I'll let you take it off on the AFC side.
What an electric game. I love the Kansas City and Buffalo. There's going to be the Super Bowl is coming up, but this might be the Super Bowl. It's electric. They've been going back and forth since the 13-second drive, which the last 2 minutes of that game was enough football for a lifetime. Absolutely electric game.
Mm-hmm.
I do have the Chiefs winning. I think they're just the winning team. They're tapped into winning. They're going to be playing at home. They know Buffalo, and they're just more full. Buffalo strip their team, and Josh Allen's only going to be able to do so much. I think the Chiefs, what they can do maybe a little bit better is control the clock. So you're going to get into like some game-winning situations that I think the Chiefs just have figured out. So I got the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
I have Baltimore. I
All
I I,
right.
I think that this could. Did you see that stat at the Ravens' three Super Bowls have all like they've come? I think it was 12 years apart, and every time that they've won it, their quarterback has been 28 years old. Well, this is
Really?
this is 12 years after Baltimore won their last Super Bowl, and Lamar Jackson is 28 years old. So I think something's written in the stars here. But this team is complete. Like you look at the passing numbers for Lamar, you know what he can do on the ground, and you have King Henry back there, and that defense just plays with a mentality, man. I really don't want to see Kansas City go to another Super Bowl. Like that is something like when before I go to bed, like when I'm talking to God and stuff, like, hey, the Kansas City team, like they've been to the Super Bowl quite a few times, right, God? Like, don't we want things to be a little fair every now and then? And I got Baltimore going to the Super Bowl. And then on the NFC side, Detroit and Tampa Bay. I know you called it a team of destiny. I think so as well. I think this is Detroit's year. I think they're going to go to the Super Bowl.
It's gonna be, yeah, Lions are gonna be in the Super Bowl. They absolutely should be. I think the only team that can knock them out is a hot Philly team because they can control the pace of the game so much. I think they can go up 10 and hold it. But I just don't see that happening. I think Detroit is too good on all cylinders. They've won games every single way. When the defense got called into question, when the defense was banged up, they answered against Minnesota when it counted. Yeah, the Lions should take care of Tampa, and they'll be playing at home too. The place is going to be loud. NFC Championship in Detroit for the first time since 1492. It's gonna be a awesome place to be, and it's gonna be Lions in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree on that end. So I have a Detroit, Baltimore. You have Detroit, Kansas City. I'll let you take it off because we got our differences here. I'm more curious to hear your answer.
Team of Destiny.
Yeah.
I love what the Lions have done. They are getting to an echelon where they can win as a habit. I think winning is a habit, and that's why I'm going with the Chiefs. They are tapped into how to
Mm.
win football games. You can put up stats, you can put guys back there, you can do this, do that. But I think the habit of winning football games is with the Chiefs. They are tapped into it. They skated by a lot of games this year. Some of it was luck. Yeah, should they be 15-1? Probably not. Ball went their way a couple times, but they're tapped into winning. And that's what I've said from the start. That's why I made my apology a month or so ago. These guys just go out and they win football games, and until I'm proven wrong, I think the Chiefs. I think they three-peat. I think this is the team to do it.
Well, we both have Detroit picking 31st in next year's first round.
Oh, all
I have
right.
the Baltimore Ravens. I told you it's the team of destiny. They got their 28-year-old quarterback. This is what they wait for. But it's just so hard to imagine in my mind Detroit winning a Super Bowl. Like there's just like life, death, taxes, and Detroit just can't. They just can't have anything in their trophy case. Like I just think it's one of those weird things in sports, and I do think they are a little bit too banged up on that defensive front. If you get Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the backfield against that defensive front against Detroit, it's going to be some scary stuff. Like I see Baltimore just having a day, and Jared Goff is not the quarterback that Lamar Jackson is right now. And I think everybody and their mother's cat can say that at this point. So we both have
Lamar
AFC.
dominates. Lamar dominates the NFC too, doesn't he? Doesn't he have like
Yeah,
one loss against the
yeah.
NFC in his career? The,
It's
the guys that
stupid.
don't see Lamar much are just blown away when they see him on the field.
Yeah, he just hasn't gotten to the Super Bowl yet. And I think this is the year they get over that hump. They went out, they paid for their running back. That defense has stayed tough. This is Lamar's best year. Like, I think it's 40 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Like, and I'll let this
That's
transition
true.
us. Really, I am
Yeah.
going to say that my NFL MVP is Lamar Jackson. The numbers are just stupid. And I know the argument is you look at value. How much more value does Lamar Jackson bring to his team than a Josh Allen does? And I know you said it before. You're a big Josh Allen guy. I'm going to predict that that is your most valuable player. That's what I'm hearing. He is the favorite. He is. But I'm picking Lamar. I'm an analytics guy, a stats guy. Like those numbers are too stupid. I think he's got the fourth highest passer rating of all time, and he
Yeah.
does all the stuff on the ground. Like it's like what he's done this year just shouldn't be fair. It's Madden numbers.
It's Madden numbers, and I'd show you my page. I don't know if it'll. I'd probably show you too much. NFL MVP. I have Lamar. Dot dot dot. The numbers are just too good.
Okay. Yeah.
Best running quarterback ever with the top five passer rating ever. And then I crossed it off. Josh Allen's got a better record. He won out. What's the goal? Win games. He's the 2 seed,
Yeah.
and they're not one game apart. They're 2 games apart. He did it with less. And the numbers, he's not with Lamar's numbers. Don't get me wrong. They're good. Josh Allen has also put up
Oh yeah.
MVP quality numbers in other years. You look at Josh Allen's numbers and you're like, that's the guy. Even his running numbers, if Lamar, now maybe this is why Lamar should get it because he's setting on unseen precedents. But if Lamar wasn't in the league, Josh Allen's running would be, by far setting a different standard. He's absolutely a dog running the football. But he had a better record with less weapons. That's why I'm giving Josh the MVP.
And I totally see that answer. I just, in my mind, I can't look at the back of Lamar Jackson's football card or like his pro football reference page and see that he's won 2 MVPs. But the year that is by and far the absolute best that he doesn't win that year. And then you look at Allen's numbers and he's had better years too when you look at it. But really, if Allen was not on that Bills team, we're not talking about him at all. They're
Yeah.
not even a glimpse in our mind. Where if that was the case in Baltimore, if Lamar was not on that team, I think they still have a solid shot to be where they're at right now. So there's a good argument for it, and I think the way that you had it written down on your sheet where you had Lamar and then you second guessed yourself and you're like, no, Josh won more games. I think that's where most people are at right now. Like
Mhm.
Josh Allen, you have to admit what he's done this year has been something special, and I'm okay with either of them winning it because there's an argument for both sides. My offensive player of the year, I think this is as easy as it gets. You don't get a 2,000 yard rusher every now and then. Like that's not an easy thing to do. I think Saquon Barkley is very easily that guy, and he's got that signature play. What was the one that we saw the where he jumped up and 360 hurdled a guy? Like
Jumping
they,
over
they
someone
had to
backwards.
add graphics into Madden so he can do that now because that's something that shouldn't be humanly possible. But we saw him do it, and he's a freak. Like this is peak Saquon Barkley. And boy, I don't know how anybody in the New York Giants organization can like sleep well at this point. Like like you let that guy walk. So shame on the New York Giants because Saquon Barkley is your offensive player of the year.
And the Giants are keeping their jobs. Joe Shane and Dable are keeping their job. I don't know how if those guys are keeping their jobs, I better have job security my whole life. Like if somebody can be that bad at their job.
Self-employed. I better have job security.
It's decent job security, Cody. I don't know if it's job security or lack thereof, but
It's a job.
there's been 9 running backs ever to crack 2,000 yards. There's been 6 receivers ever to win the Triple Crown. Jamar
Mm.
Chase is my offensive player of the year. Yes, Saquon elevated a team. That's not what offensive player of the year is all about. This is kind of just about dominating offensively, and Jamar did that all season long. On a team that needed him. T was in and out a little bit. They don't have much else going on. They got rid of Joe Mixon. Now Chase Brown had a decent year, but I think he was kind of almost in an Aaron Jones production where
Yeah.
defense is playing so much coverage that they're going to
Mhm.
give you 5, 6 yards on the ground. And, just like teams are stacking the box against Saquon, teams are doubling Jamar, and he just won a Triple Crown. Guy's 25 years old. And like I said, he's the 6th ever to win the Triple Crown, and there's been 9 guys to hit 2,000. And so I'm giving it to Jamar.
Good reasoning. Kudos there. I mean, yeah, like it hasn't been talked about enough. And in a year where Jamar Chase was saying, "I want to get paid more than Justin Jefferson," he's like, "Go watch me do it." He
He
went
didn't
out
have
and
to
did it.
play. He could have sat out. There was a holdout. He didn't get paid going into this year. What Jamar
Hmm.
did this year, respectful and professional, baby. He showed up, won a Triple Crown without
Right.
getting paid. Oh my Lord, I love it.
Do your job, get your bag. Congratulations, Jamar Chase. You have won Sam Douglas's offensive player of the year. I don't think that's how it's going to go down at the NFL awards because there's just I don't know, a 2,000 yard rusher and what he's able to do in the passing game as well. I don't like they needed their Saquon Barkley. Defensive player of the year. I have Myles Garrett, and maybe he deserves it, maybe he doesn't, but boy, they love giving it to him, whether there's a better season out there or not. So I'm gonna pick Myles Garrett for that sole reason. Like you can look at the numbers or what, like the dude is a freak, and he is there every single year and gives that Cleveland fan base something to watch for, regardless of how bad the team is in reality. But I'm picking Garrett for the sole reason that the NFL voters just they love them some Myles Garrett.
It's too bad being a Packer fan that we don't see more of him, to be honest with you. He's going to go down as one of the best edge rushers ever to play the game, and he's been in purgatory in Cleveland for his whole career. He's been an Iron Man. He shows up, he gets his numbers, and he wins awards. And you just don't see him in primetime situations because he's playing in Cleveland. Now, if he ends up in Green Bay next year, that'd be pretty cool. I'd be a fan. But we would not be getting the reigning defensive player of the year because I believe it's going to be TJ Watt. This Steelers team struggled a whole lot of places, but their one constant this year has been TJ Watt. Now, Russell Wilson, the quarterback change, gets a lot of the media attention. TJ Watt, as an edge rusher, led the league in forced fumbles this year. That's six. And there's been about three or four that have been called back due to like holding penalties or whatever. The guy's an absolute dog. He showed up. He played 15 games this year. That's two less than a couple other guys. And he was sixth in sacks at 11 and a half. And he's the dog who caused his team to win. So that's why I'm giving him the edge over Garrett.
I don't think there's any chance that they give it to TJ Watt. They do not like TJ Watt.
They don't.
They just like last year he had the numbers over Garrett, and this year Garrett has some better numbers. And I would take a TJ Watt over probably any defender in the league right now. If I had to pick the first pick, I will go TJ Watt. And Green Bay decided that Kevin King would be a better choice. I'll never live that one down. Anytime I see TJ Watt live in the backfield for a whole game, I just think and I sit and I watch Green Bay's pass rush and be like, wow, they were really missing something. And that's evident. I mean, hindsight's 2020, but when you got a last name like that, I don't know. It's like you know a Watt boy is gonna ball out. And that's all TJ has done. For the Packers MVP. Well, actually, no, excuse me. We'll go into the coach of the year first, and then we'll do our Packers awards. Because I think we should do some
Sure.
there as well. Coach of the year, I am going to give to Kevin O'Connell because of the exceeding of expectations. Kevin O'Connell has shown he is one of the best coaches in the NFL, and this year he's just outcoached. He has been that he's made Sam Darnold someone who has switched teams. This is his fourth team, I believe now. He was a number 2 overall pick that nobody could hang on and give a chance. He made Sam Darnold that guy that so many people gave up on. You made him into an MVP conversation. Like all truly. Kevin
Darnold
O'Connell.
better Darnold better be naming his first kid Kevin because the contract that Sam Darnold is about to get because this guy is changing his family's life forever. Little bit of pressure on Sam Darnold in this first playoff game. You know, if he's kind of a jabroni, like his contract going into next year could be 50 million if he balls out, and it could be that like 25, 30 million a year if he continues to kind of look like, you know, if he goes back to
He better win.
125
He
and
really better win. Like, and Minnesota might make a decision on who they want as their quarterback as well, because they have JJ McCarthy waiting there too. Like, they don't need to pay a
Mhm.
Sam Darnold. I think he's earned it, but I think a lot of it is riding on that first playoff game.
It's got to be because we know the potential on both sides. But I completely agree with you. Everything you said. Kevin O'Connell has to be the coach of the year. McDermott has an argument because the team got stripped, but he has what I think is the MVP
That's
on his
Josh
team.
Allen. Yeah.
Tomlin had a case for a while, but the Steelers are in a bit of a slide. Andy Reid should get some votes. But no, it's Kevin O'Connell's year.
And I mean, we haven't mentioned the guy who might actually win it too, and that's Dan Campbell, just for the sheer
Yeah.
fact of how dominant Detroit has been this year. And they don't care what anybody else says. But I think O'Connell gets it just for the sheer fact that I don't think many of us saw them winning 14 games this year. Like that was a pretty incredible feat, especially for the fact that they played in the NFC North and how tough that was top to bottom. Like to go in and beat Chicago twice and to beat Green Bay twice, like that's impressive stuff. And they were right on the ropes in game 1 against Detroit, and then the second game, they're golden boy quarterback just couldn't get it done. Packers MVP. I don't think there's much argument for this. I'd love to hear one from you, but Josh Jacobs, one of the best free agent signings that this franchise has ever seen. They've had some great ones, but Jacobs will be one that we remember. I've said it time and time again, the best running back I've seen with my own eyes running green and gold.
In the first 7 weeks this year, Josh Jacobs had one touchdown. Since then, he's had 13 over the last next games. He's had 12 in the past 7 games. The guy's just on a tear. He's been as surefire of a bet to get in the end zone as anybody in the league. He's scoring every single game. He's had the team on his back. I was prepared for you to say Josh Jacobs on that, so I have Brandon McManus. The guy
I like it.
He didn't miss a single extra. I don't want to talk too much kicking because like all the voodoo, so I'm specifically talking what he did in the regular season. I'm not saying projection, what he can do, but objectively speaking, his regular season changed this team. Without Brandon McManus, he filled a hole that we've been looking for 5 years. His long on the season was 55, cold, could have been a game-winning kick. We have a guy we can rely on to hit a 60-yarder in the playoffs. This is unbelievable. He's 20 for 21. He's hit all of his 50 plus, hasn't missed an extra point, and he's a season changer for us. I think we're the 7th seed without him.
Right. Oh, I don't. They're not in the playoffs.
I would love. I thought about giving it to Goody, because of all the moves that he made. But when you look at it, it just feels like the guys that make plays should get the award, whether it's Jacobs or McManus. When you look at it, Jacobs has been eating. He's a dominant factor. I love Goody. He's done great. Josh Jacobs, Brandon McManus.
You give it to the guys. And Malik Willis, I mean, you have to talk about the year that he had too. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, just came in, got his job done. You would have loved to see him go in and beat Chicago. And really, they deserve to. They went down and they should have been able to do it. But they didn't. Came up a little bit short. But Malik Willis, one of those big acquisitions. Defensive player of the year. This one also has to be too easy, I think. Xavier McKinney, the other free agent signing, like without what Gutekunst did in free agency, I don't think we're talking about Green Bay right now. I really, truly don't. And yes, you can talk about the miss on the first-round draft pick, which we haven't seen Jordan Morgan play. And yes, you really would have loved to see a Terry and Arnold or a who's playing in Philly that we're gonna Quinyon Mitchell, who might be a top 5 corner in the NFL. They had an opportunity to draft either of those guys or Cooper DeJean, and they passed on them all to draft Jordan Morgan. Yes, you can fault him for that, but what he was able to do, picking up a Xavier McKinney, 8 interceptions, the leader of that defense. Without them, I would have absolutely no confidence in this team against Philly to cover anybody.
McKinney was an absolute game changer. Second in the NFL in interceptions. You saw the tear. He kept us floating for the first couple weeks. And, the steady hand with Hafley's one deep safety, having that deep safety be the king of your defense has been huge for us. I think we're getting scored 30 points on every single week without him.
Yeah, I think so as well. Do you have any extra Packer awards you want to throw out there? Do you need an offensive player of the year or a rookie?
I want to give a little piece of cheese to Tucker Kraft. I think the guy's coming alive, and I think he has the opportunity to be a top 5 tight end for a lot of years to come. So I want to give a brief shout out to Tucker Kraft. And hey, playoff time. I'm stoked.
I agree as well. And when you talk about offensive rookie of the year, I couldn't think of one because I don't think there has been a rookie to really contribute on offense. Like you were hoping that Marshawn Lloyd would have been that guy, but he was hurt the whole season. We'll see what he can do next year. But you had a lot of guys step up, and Emmanuel Wilson had a really solid year rushing the football. Chris Brooks stepping in and doing all he does. The wide receiver room, I think, was who left the most to be desired. I think they had a lot of talent. We had a lot of expectations, but they weren't able to do it. But just as we're wrapping up here, Green Bay taking on Philly on Sunday. Do you have one bold prediction for the game, Sam?
Pack on top, 42-3. Packers win. Let's go. We roll.
I like it. Well, I hope that Green Bay wins. I may have some differing picks in my mind, but I'm very excited for this game. And whatever happens, go Pack, go. I'm Cody Dupius. That is Sam Douglas. We'll see you next Monday for hopefully positive reactions on A Little Bit of Cheese, your bite-sized Wisconsin sports podcast.